97.9 The Hill, WCHL, Chapel Hill. Streaming live on chapelboro.com.
Coming to you straight from the heart of Chapel Hill in the 97.9 The Hill WCHL studios from the independent voice of UNC Sports, covering everything from Amos to Zwicker. This is Inside Carolina Live. And now the hosts of Inside Carolina Live, Tommy Ashley and Joey Powell.
Welcome in Inside Carolina Live, February 25th. Episode of February. God, this time, these days are flying by. I'm Tommy Ashley. It's Joey Powell over there. Jalen Harrell in the middle. Daniel Myrick on the boards. Carolina and Virginia, 6 p.m. from the Smith Center. In Joey, what I call during the week, North Carolina's already in the NCAA tournament right now. This is it. They win or they go home.
Wait. So if they're already in, can you get Joe Lunardi's fat face off my screen, please?
Just eat a Snickers, man. Somebody, look, Daniel, I need you to bring a box of Snickers for Joey in the mornings. He's getting more and more grumpy. My point being, they are basically playing in elimination games as we speak. And they had one against Notre Dame, and they've got another one today against Virginia. And if they win that one, they got another one against Florida State. Somebody on the boards has said survive and advance, win or go home. However you want to put it, Joey. This is a massive game for North Carolina. Already got some good comments on the message boards. What do you think? I mean, it's cold and dreary in Chapel Hill. Virginia's coming to town. Carolina's coming off a 2 for 23 effort.
It can't be any colder or grosser outside than it was Wednesday night in South Bend.
That was brutal. I would wager that if they go 2 for 23 today, they will not beat Virginia.
That was offensive to the word brutal, by the way. Just so you know, that is absolutely disgusting. And I want to talk, when we talk with Adam Smith a little bit, I'm going to ask him for some historical context. But Tommy, on Wednesday night, they shot Thursday's date from the three-point line.
Oh, I get it.
They went 2 for 23 from beyond the arc.
It was like a second Jordan day or something.
I feel like you should be able to do that against air. Like that's hard to do against air, I guess. How do you only make 2 of 23 and you're Division I basketball players?
Oh, well, Caleb Love's the only one that made the 2. So the rest of them, somebody on the boards, and look, I don't want to, we all watch it. We see what it is. But somebody said that I could stand, and not me, because I can shoot a little bit. I could stand at the three-point line and throw the ball at the rim like a baseball and make more than 2 for 23. That's where this team is. And you talk about historical context. That first half against Notre Dame, and credit them, they came back and they got the win. Because for some reason, I think Notre Dame's decent, but they look terrible.
Hubert Davis thinks they're a great team.
Yeah. Amazing. And they shot the worst percentage in Carolina history with that many attempts. I mean, think about that. And we're here at February 25th looking on the backside of the bubble for a team, preseason number 1, let's all agree right now, that was ridiculous. I mean.
Yeah, but when is the voting populace ever not been lazy?
I agree with that 100%. And it was the easy pick. Right. Everybody's coming back and all this. But the records that this team is staring at, or the futility that this team is staring at, it makes me want to quote Dewey Burke, Justin Jackson, and all these former guys is like, what are we doing that we, as in the players that play the game, are not getting it together? Like, how does it not click at this point? And I get it. It's tough being a college athlete, but it takes no talent to go all out. I would love to see something different tried.
I think that's the thing that is mind-numbing for fans. And shout out to everybody who's already in the chat today. But Inside Carolina subscribers, Carolina fans around the globe, that despite the poor results and despite not being able to do the things that they want to do in any way, shape, or form, I feel like Hubert Davis is still doing the same things, whether it's personnel, whether it's freelance or play calling. Tommy, how many possessions in the first half of that Notre Dame game was it essentially just a situation where you either have the high ball screen start the offense or a handoff at the top of the key, and then four guys basically go stand and watch the other guy try to score? If I saw that once, I saw it 100 times in the first half. And again, that's a style that may work if you've got some shooters, but this team has proven that they don't shoot the ball well. Tommy, what do you think the team's season 3-point percentage is right now?
30, 29 maybe.
It's 29, which would be the lowest in the history of Carolina basketball. And they're shooting more, I think, than hardly anybody who's ever shot that poorly in the conference. So I don't know. I do think the shots they were getting against Notre Dame were decent shots that they weren't making. But it's just frustrating to see what looks like the same things over and over again, and they're just not working. In the first half against Notre Dame, when things were just stalled out and North Carolina seemed like they couldn't get a bucket, there's one play where his name escapes me, and I know I've said it 1,000 times because he's torched Carolina before.
Leshevsky, probably.
Leshevsky was guarding Armando Bacot in the paint. He falls down on the floor. Armando is standing there wide open, just butt booty naked in the lane, and Carolina didn't throw him the ball. I just don't understand how, that's the type of situation where I feel like any coach on any level, and I'm not just bagging on Hubert Davis here, but I'm trying to point out the disconnect. At some point, that needs to be okay, we're going to call a timeout, and we're going to go have a praise break in the corner and have a revival until everybody gets their life back together and gives their life back to basketball, because that just can't happen.
What I don't understand, and get in here, Jalen, is that, and this has been the most frustrating thing, and I am not going to have a negative day because they are not going to rain on my parade. That's one thing that I've watched people and listened to people when I talk to a ton of fans, know a ton of fans, and all. It's like, under no circumstances is watching a college basketball game going to ruin my day, right? It's just not going to happen. It used to. Back in the day. But Jalen, you're around campus a lot. Yeah. And I wonder what the feeling is like on campus. Last year, this time of year, especially in March and April, my boys up here, it was unbelievable. Just the vibe, the Franklin Street deal, all that kind of stuff, what's going on. What's the feeling around this year? Is there even a feeling? What can we expect tonight in the Smith Center, because the students have been awesome all year?
Yeah, there's been a lot of support. I will say, Tommy, that in the beginning of the semester, there was a lot more optimism, to say the least. Okay, we started this way last year. I think the Hills can still pull it off. But as the season kind of progressed and people were able to see how other players were playing and playing along with each other, and then we got drama outside of just playing on the court going on, people kind of begin to stray away from the team and start saying, okay, these guys are not playing to the caliber that they should. So at this point now, I can say that a lot of students have lost hope. Like you said, this is going to be a big game tonight, just to see where UNC could potentially go. But I will say on campus, the vibe is not anywhere where it used to be at this time last year. Definitely.
Yeah, and that's what's amazing to me is that how far it's declined. Now, I'm not, and Tyler Hansbrough was on one of his podcasts talking about, I'm not ready to lay it all on Hubert Davis's feet, because there are common denominators over the last 3 or 4 years, and those are the players. The coaching staff has changed, and so that at some point it's on the players. But what has gotten me, and Dewey's point, and this is what got Dewey so fired up in my post game the other night.
My man was lit. You're right.
He was on. Look, let me tell you something. I assume if folks watched the live, you heard the almost Dewey, because I heard the full Dewey off air.
He got real close to that line when you guys were recording.
If you listen to the podcast version, the audio version, you did not hear it all, because I think, shout out to John Siegley for cleaning it up a little bit. But what got him most fired up, and what gets all these former guys and all these folks that have watched it for a long time, is you've got that stretch against Notre Dame where they come out and they play.
Yeah, you saw flashes.
And RJ played defense.
Yep. Twice. Picked the guy's pocket twice.
And I thought it when I saw it, but I didn't want to say it because it sounded kind of violent. But like, he was like a leopard with a wounded antelope or something
for about 90 seconds
when he jumped on that guy that was hurt or limping or whatever and started. And that is what fired Dewey up. That's what fires everybody up, is because that's what I'm saying. There's no excuse. You can play. They can actually play defense. You're not going to shoot well.
And you're not going to steal the ball every possession. I get that.
But you get in and you get into people instead of just laying on defense. And we're going to see Virginia. Virginia's not very good this year. And they were 6th in the nation. I think they've benched Caden Shedrick, the kid from Holly Springs. Yeah. But they're going to play defense. And Carolina's going to have to do something other than pounding it into the floor and then jacking a three, because I'd be surprised if Armando Bacot got one clean look tonight.
Well, the thing is, and this is going to, some people might roll their eyes at this, beating Virginia tonight could be as simple as making like 37% of your three-pointers. If North Carolina hits like 9, 10 three-pointers tonight, they could absolutely win this game.
Yeah.
It's not that hard. It's just the fact is, and I don't know if it's, to quote Coach 30 here, I don't know if they're just not big enough for the moment and they're just boo-booing down their legs. But these guys just make some shots. And I think things really will, game by game, could potentially turn for them. But they've just proven that they just – for whatever reason, and I think they start seeing three-pointers miss, and then they start missing chippies. So, I mean, how many times did they have shots right at the rim the other night against Notre Dame, who's not a very strong team in the post? Just miss chippies.
Like Leaky's layup.
Leaky got hung. He's 6'9".
He got pinned. And look, and what's great about that? Not great, because it was kind of sad, but if he bangs it off the back of the rim there, and misses,
they likely lose possession.
They might lose the game.
It was. I made a comment to a buddy of mine in a Slack group that was like the bizarro Brian Reese. Remember Brian Reese against Cincinnati? And George talked about it, and here was with us a couple of weeks ago. He goes up and Coach Smith tells him don't dunk it, and the first thing he does is go and try to dunk it. If Leaky had gone up and actually
tried to rip it, Notre Dame would have had fast break.
Just unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing what we're watching. And we've seen it on all three major sports. The football team did it. The basketball team did it. The baseball team did it last night against East Carolina. We'll talk to Dave Nathan later about what the baseball team is going to look like this year. But it's just at some point, and it needs to be tonight, at some point somebody needs to step up and say, I'm not going to take it anymore, right? I'm not going to allow this to end that way. And Bacot, when he said the other day, I'm stressed the heck out about missing the tournament, at some point I would, if I'm him or whoever, I'm getting in somebody's face very publicly and just going off. And I think that's what we haven't seen as far as the accountability on actions. I mean, they give the ball away like it's a gift. Like Oprah's out there going, hey, basketball for you.
You get a turnover. You get a turnover.
It's like they're at times. So against Virginia, who is challenged, they better be locked in completely or the season's over tonight.
Yeah. Well, so theoretically, how on brand would it be if this team wins tonight and drops the game in Tallahassee on Monday. How on brand would that be?
It would not surprise me, but I'll say this. I think this team has it in them to win these 3 and get in a decent mindset and then see what happens. I agree with Greg that they need to win one in the ACC tournament, even if they win out.
Yeah. Well, just erase the doubt, right?
Yeah.
Like,
but what I'm looking for, and you guys and Jalen, I want your opinion here, is I just want to see them actually come out and play Carolina basketball, win or lose.
Look like you care. Look connected. To use a Hubert Davis phrase, you look connected.
I think I have no doubt that they care more than we do.
Sure.
But the translation between caring and doing something about it is what's lost. And that is a big part of coaching.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to say, I want to be great, mama. I want to be, Billy, I want to do great things.
But are you doing the things?
Are you doing the things to do that?
Absolutely.
And that's where the disconnect is here. And then I think some of that falls on Hubert Davis. I mean, some of those shots of Jeff Lebo sitting on the bench, I mean, that dude.
Those dudes did not look like,
If you had the bubble above somebody's head, like what they're thinking, I can't imagine.
That would be a fun show. Just taking still shots from the staff this season and like captioning it.
Do you remember pop-up video back on MTV back in the day? It would be unbelievable. So anyway, what do you think? Does this team have it in them? And going a step further than that, can they take that's in them and get it out of themselves and play well tonight?
Yeah, I would say that they definitely have it in them. They've had to drive, I feel like, for a lot of the season. The issue is actually playing together. Between Caleb and RJ, Leaky, Armando, Pete, there's always somebody who is streaky or somebody who just can't seem to mesh well with everyone else, and that's very obvious on the court when they're playing. So if they can just come together and actually play as a team and play what Hubert Davis loves to call Carolina basketball, maybe we can see them move a little further. But then that kind of goes to what is Carolina basketball and how is Hubert Davis helping execute that look? When you're shooting, 0 for 11 to start off the game against Notre Dame, then that's when you kind of come back and be like, okay, how can we switch this up? Because Caleb, RJ needs to just stop throwing up shots and we need to get to the paint. Like, that's when you kind of change things up. And that's where I would like to see players get more involved and have the bench be utilized. I remember I was talking to Adam about this, how Leaky has the potential to be such a dominant player with his size and height and athleticism and skill. He just needs to be utilized better in the position to really get to the basket, get to the paint, and be a slasher. So that's where I kind of go back and say, okay, now is it really the team playing back? Because you can't make players shoot, of course, but how is the team actually being executed? How are plays being executed? How are they playing together? And that's kind of the most obvious thing that we can see right now, that they haven't been playing together.
I'm going to throw this out there. That last play that they ran, which you and Dewey talked about it, I'm not sure that play was designed for Leaky to take it all the way to the rim. I don't hate that. I don't hate Leaky taking it all the way to the rim, because typically you've got somebody there to clean it up. And Leaky should actually be able to beat his man, because he's usually going to be bigger than whoever that guy is. Now, granted, he's got to finish, but in real time, I kind of had a WTF moment. But I don't hate that play going back and rewatching it, because I think there was some action off of that got covered up. But at the same time, Leaky's usually going to have a bit of a height advantage and should be able to muscle his way or athlete his way to the cup.
I don't want to be too hard on a player, because the players are what they are. It is their job to work hard. It is their job to improve. But at some point, you are what you are, and the coaches have to realize that you are what you are, and don't put a player in a position that he's going to fail.
Yeah,
you try to put your players in positions to be successful. But Leaky Black has played 150 ball games for North Carolina basketball, close to it.
Yep.
When he had the ball out top, regardless of what they were running, I mean, you don't think Notre Dame said, we'll live with that? Caleb Love's not getting this ball.
Yeah.
RJ Davis is not getting this ball.
Which is smart.
And so that's, I don't know. I mean, I'm an eternal optimist. Buck Sanders would laugh and fall out of his morning chair.
Yeah, what happened to
that.
Cup Half Empty, Tommy?
Yeah, I've changed as I've gotten older, but I think I just want to see them come out, win or lose, and when you're at the end of the game and the game is over, you look and you just tip your hat to Virginia or whoever you play, rather than saying, and I'm not getting into the ref stuff because I'm sick of hearing that, is they just beat us.
If they beat you, fine. But don't leave it there for the taking, and don't half what it away so that the other team gets it rather than you just being beaten. All right. A lot going on today. We're going to talk with Adam Smith after this break. He's been in some press conferences. He's been covering the team all season. Let's see if he might have a nugget or two for us based on some things that Hubert Davis said yesterday in his media availability. Then we're going to talk some football, Tommy. We'll talk recruiting with Don Callahan. We haven't had DC on in a little bit. I'm going to talk about the 23 class. Spring ball is right around the corner, believe it or not. We'll see if he can give us kind of a synopsis as to what the 24 class looks like and what kind of in-state talent there might be out there on the UNC radar. And then we're going to talk with Dave Nathan, play-by-play voice of UNC baseball. Dave's going to give us a really good look at this Tar Heel baseball season. The Diamond Heels have gotten off to a fairly decent start after dropping their first game against Seton Hall. A lot to look forward to with this squad, a lot of pop in the lineup, some decent pitching, just a lot to watch for, and Dave's going to help us break that down, so we'll be with him in a little bit. We appreciate all of you guys being a part of the show. And you know what, Tommy? I'm going to keep telling folks that I'm glad they're here. I like people being a part of the show. I'm a nice guy. 152
people currently in the
Shout out to y'all. And if you hate me thanking
awesome.
people for being on the show, well, then you guys can, take a long walk off a short pier. We'll be right back on Inside Carolina Live on 97.9 The Hill, WCHL.
This is Matt Merletti, and you're listening to Inside Carolina Live.
The Casual Pint is your place for craft beer. Choose among 35 rotating taps. With a wide variety of styles, there's something for everyone. What's your favorite style? Don't quite know? Sample before you select your pint or try a flight today. Wanting to take beer to go? Choose from 200 plus beers in their cooler to create your mix of six or fill a crowler or growler from the tap wall. All at the Casual Pint, 201 South Elliott Road, Chapel Hill.
Tired of paying too much for insurance that just doesn't fit your needs? At All About Insurance, we shop your insurance with multiple carriers to get the best deal for you. Nationwide, AAA, Travelers, The Hartford, Auto Owners, and more. All About Insurance has got you covered whether you need auto, home, life, health, business, or renter's insurance. We can even cover your boat and motorcycle. Come see us in Chapel Hill at 1289 Fordham Boulevard. Call 919-933-4000 or visit allaboutinsurance.com. One call, we can shop them all. We know all about insurance, so you don't have to.
Do you love Michelin brand tires but need to find a better price that is backed by better service? Michelin and BF Goodrich have teamed up with F&F Automotive as their newest dealer in Chapel Hill, Carrboro. With prices too low to print, call today or stop by their shop at 107 West Weaver Street in downtown Carrboro to find out why F&F Automotive is the trusted local choice in value, pricing, service, and dependability since 1962.
Hey, Jack, if you were to describe us at Alma's Jewelers, what would you say?
Great question, Eli. I'd say we bring the bling.
Well said, my friend. We have so many beautiful pieces, truly the largest engagement ring and wedding band selection in the area.
Bringing the bling means we specialize in diamonds, engagement rings, and wedding bands, and we are on site for custom consultations too.
Alma's Jewelers in Eastgate Crossing is the place for bridal jewelry in Chapel Hill. Alma's Jewelers. The name means diamonds. Let's engage. Online at almasjewelers.com.
Tired of working from home? Need space for your team to grow? Visit the Bold Building just 10 minutes from downtown Chapel Hill and UNC. If you need an office for one person, two people, or a team space for 50, we have professional office space for you. When we think about where and how we work, times they are a-changin'. I'm Shayla with Bold Commercial Real Estate, inviting you to ditch the old way, jump on the bold way, and see how we can make your workspace the best it can be. Visit boldcre.com.
The Chapel Hill Media Group is 97.9 The Hill, WCHL, your hometown radio station, and chapelboro.com, your daily online newspaper. With local news, local events, music for folks who love music, Tar Heel sports, and everything else you need to know to be in the know. Start your day on the air or online. Get informed and connected with your community through the Chapel Hill Media Group.
You're listening to Inside Carolina Live with Tommy Ashley and Joey Powell on 97.9 The Hill, WCHL, the flagship station for Tar Heel sports.
Every day.
Inside Carolina Live. Happy Saturday to you.
Listen to your words every day.
Every day.
Nothing seems to change.
I mean, that's pretty accurate. Especially
Good job,
with
AJ.
Especially with this Carolina basketball season we got going on right now. My man Sherelle likes to use the word variance. And man, that is absolutely a thing this season. You know, if you were writing a book about this year, I think variance would be an appropriate title. A guy that has been following the squad and knows very much about the up and down that we've all seen. Adam Smith. Adam, how are you, dude?
Up, down, and all around, baby.
Wow, he's fired up. Can you get Joey fired up? Get Joey fired up, Adam.
Is Joey in a bad way? Is he in a bad place?
A little under the weather.
I'm sickly. I'm like a Dickens character over here.
Is it your tummy?
Please, sir, my tum-tum is rumbly.
Y'all need to quit saying
Tommy needs to make you a little tea.
You talk me into
Tommy ain't gonna make anybody some tea. He said last week on the show he wanted to kill me, so I know he ain't gonna do anything to help me.
Oh my God, Adam! I'm gonna take this over. No, go ahead, Joey.
Adam, we had another game of historical proportions on Wednesday night for all the wrong reasons.
We did have another game.
It was a game, and many will say it was certainly a thing. I want to ask you, with this staff, you know, you saw some facial expressions, you saw some comments, some post-game statements. And I don't know if a lot of folks have a feel yet because the staff hasn't been around as long. But do you feel like there is a sense of urgency with this staff? Because again, last week, Hubert Davis was saying that he didn't feel the sense of urgency, that he felt like it was just, you know, you should take pride in playing the game and some of the things he said a couple of times. But I want to ask you, do you feel like the staff has a sense of urgency about what's going on with the team right now?
I mean, honestly, I don't know. That's a great question. You know, this is good radio when I say I don't know and don't come with a take. I mean, you're right. Like your preamble to the question there when you're talking about, I mean, what was it after the NC State game? Hubert said to what I asked him, you know, there's still plenty of time. And I'm like, man, there's not plenty of time. But I mean, if we're taking it, if we're talking about Wednesday night in South Bend, I mean, yes, there absolutely was some urgency to the staff, to the players. I mean, I just, you know, everyone is well aware of the situation, regardless of what, you know, Hubert likes to say. You know, he doesn't, you know, what is quad one, quad none? You know, he likes to say that. It's sort of a coach type answer to questions and stuff. But I mean, they are all, you know, explicitly aware of what's going on. You know, when we talked to Armando after the Notre Dame game, when we got done recording, he immediately said, when we put our stuff down, who won the UVA BC game? You know, and this is this is like 5 minutes after he just got done playing. And I was like, you know, BC beat them by 15 or something, you know, whatever the score was. And he goes, dang, that's not good for us. So, I mean, you know, like, our very own photographer, Jim Hawkins, said that in one of the first timeouts at Notre Dame that he could hear from the baseline where he was sitting, that he could hear someone just going off in the timeout huddle for UNC. And he had said he assumed it was Hubert, but he couldn't see because, you know, they have the huddle just formed so tightly. But yeah, I know I'm rambling here, but to answer your question, in the moment the other night, yes, because as we're all aware at this point, like it seemed like it was sort of like a conga line of assistant coaches who came in during halftime and just sort of ripped into them. RJ Davis's quote was, Hubert was furious, and then Caleb said that assistant coach Brad Frederick and Jeff Leba and even Eric Hoots, got in there and blasted them. So I'm not sure Hubert's going to say sometimes in terms of what you're asking about the urgency. But I mean, if you really listen to him sometimes, he will tell you the truth as opposed to the company line that he's trying to put out there. Mm-hmm. And he's gotten closer and closer to that here in the back half of the season as he talked about their shooting struggles and the pressure that has been on them. I feel like they've been playing with like a burden ever since the UNCW game, ever since the first game.
So let's push that a little bit. I actually had in my notes here that I wanted to ask you about that. He started talking about yesterday, Hubert started talking about yesterday about the weight around this team. And I think that's something that I would like to have heard about a little more, because you wonder if maybe they discovered it earlier with the team, they being the staff. Maybe they were discovering it earlier and just didn't really have any answers or thought the guys would play through it. But that, along with some other things, seems to make more sense than a lot of the, I don't know, about why the team is struggling the way that they are. That's the first time I've heard him say that, at least in recent memory.
Yeah, I mean, I go to Tommy and Ross and I and producer John would talk about this on the beat. Like, I go back to the run through the NCAA tournament last year, and I had a moment where I was able to talk to Caleb in Philadelphia. And he said, I don't know how we got on the subject, but he said to me, he goes, we hear everything. I was asking about, they had a group chat. They had a group chat that he started, Caleb did, between the players. And I was asking him about that because I was trying to write a feature on it. And I said, well, who talks the most in the group chat? And he basically said that he likes to go in there and put everything negative that he reads or hears, video, story, whatever, and put it in the group chat, like for motivation. So I always go back to that day when he said when everything was great back then, by the way. To saying that we hear everything. I just think that being the preseason number one and picked to win the ACC, openly talking about RJ Davis said championship or bust at the ACC preseason media day. I just think that it all, I think they had that confidence that they could be that team because of how close they got last year. And I think that it has just, that aspect of it had just gone the wrong way, and that it has been a burden. I remember those first 4 home games. What was it? UNCW, College of Charleston, Gardner-Webb, James Madison, before they went out to Portland. And I was just having a conversation with Brendan Marks from The Athletic. And he was just like, what's going on with this team? And I said, they just play like they're there's a burden on them. And that was in November, that it just sort of looked like, wow, we're not playing perfect, and we're like, we're aware of that. And, you get these close losses, so many close losses that they've had, like with the second half lead going the wrong way. And I think that, there was a question asked of Hubert yesterday about the shooting and could it be mental. I think that some of it has to be mental, because those guys can make, some of those guys can make shots. Pete Nance was a 40% 3-point shooter at Northwestern. So I think some of it as wide open as some of those guys around the 3-point arc are when they pack it in on Armando. I just think that, it becomes sort of like a self-fulfilling prophecy when it's going bad.
Tommy here. We're talking about Adam Smith, Inside Carolina beat writer. Adam, y'all are talking about a burden and a weight they're playing on. This is Carolina basketball. I mean, those expectations have been there for 100 years.
And Tommy remembers all 100 of them.
I remember about 52 of them, 51 of them.
Well, what's your point, Tommy?
I mean, my point is that at what point do you stop and realize, hey, I play for Carolina?
Yeah.
They expect us to be pretty good every year.
Do you play golf, Tommy?
I don't know if I'm a golfer or I play golf.
Well, you know how
There's
it is when
very
you're going
big
bad. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I don't give a dang enough about golf to get frustrated at it. I just just pop another one and swing it, grip it and rip it.
Come on, Tommy.
No, I mean,
let's keep it PG, baby. I hear you, but I mean, I don't know why I thought of that, but like, I mean, think about when you're, pull hooking a drive all the time and you can't seem to get it straightened out. I don't know. I sound like Roy Williams with talking about putting. But yeah, they know it's Carolina basketball. You don't have to tell Armando that. I mean,
I guess my point is nobody's going to feel sorry. And it feels like when they talk about playing with a burden and Hubert talks about playing with a weight and all this stuff, that it's the expectation somebody's going to feel sorry for
it. Does feel woe is me-ish.
You know what I mean?
Woe is me. Yeah. I see what you're saying. Well, how about this? Let me just completely not answer your question. I think they're going to beat Virginia today because I guess I'm insane. But, I mean, I think they're going to beat Virginia. I mean,
a little wake and bake this morning, Adam?
Have I had too much coffee? I don't. I think the crowd is going to be really good. I think it's going to be a good crowd at the Dean Dome, and I don't know. God only knows how they'll play. But I mean, I think that somehow getting over that first half at Notre Dame where they shot 18.5%. I mean, I can only imagine what you guys were doing as you were watching it on TV. I hope the walls are still secure in your houses. But I mean, I don't know why. I need to have a full psychoanalysis, but I think that for some reason, I think they're going to play. I would have been interested to see how they would have played at UVA in January. They didn't have Pete Nance because he was out with the back. And then Armando goes down on the first offensive possession, 78 seconds into the game. So they don't have to start in front court at Virginia, and at that point, I thought Carolina was playing pretty good. That was the only game they lost in January. I mean, they were 6-1 in January. Now I'm fully aware of what's happened since then as I've watched it flashing before my eyes, but I don't know. I mean, I know you guys have read, I'm sure you talked about this. I'm not trying to beat the dead horse, but I mean, UVA has gone smaller with Vanderplas in the lineup, I mean, if you got Vanderplas trying to guard Armando, I mean, and then you have Jalen Gardner who's giving away 5 inches to Pete Nance. I mean, this could be a situation where, I mean, I don't think Carolina is going to hit 15 threes like they did against Clemson, but they could really do some work on the boards today if that's how UVA goes with it. Of course, they can bring Shedrick off the bench and the big, what's the guy's name? He's up from like 7'1" from Colombia or Venezuela or wherever, Francisco somebody, I think. But I don't know. I mean, I think maybe I just have been brainwashed long enough to think that somehow, some way, they're going to win this game. I mean, they know how important it is. I mean, they are very aware, and for some reason, I think they're going to. I think are they a betting favorite today? I think they're a 3-point favorite today.
They are. That was accurate.
I don't know if I would put. I don't know if I'd put the money on them, but anyway, for some reason, I think that the crowd's going to be pretty hype, and they're going to be able to slog past. It was weird. I was looking up a bunch of numbers yesterday after Hubert got done, and Carolina averages 14 more points a game at home against UVA than they do on the road. This is UVA under Tony Bennett, which seems kind of wild to me for some reason. But I don't know. We'll see. This will be famous last words. You can mock me the next time you have me on, but I think they're going to beat Virginia today for some reason.
Adam, what's up?
Oh, my God.
Oh, words, my God.
Okay, so I got a question for you. Ready?
Wow, you came in so smooth too, Jalen. I mean, that was really nice. Yes, of course. I mean, what Jalen, you be there at the game today?
I will be there.
Awesome.
And, considering UVA has a pretty decent defense, I think they have the nation's best 60 points per game.
I think they do have a pretty decent defense, Jalen, yes.
And they focus a lot, their defense focuses a lot on just key scores, which means they'll probably try to really lock down Armando and Caleb. So in the case Armando's kind of taking out the game, or Caleb, who really needs to step up to get the job done? I know over the last 3 games, UNC has a combined 11 bench points. So it's the
God, is that
bench
right?
getting more involved. Does Pete Nance need to finally step up and make shots? Like, what does it look like, Adam?
Man, is it really 11 bench points? Oh, my goodness.
Combined in the last 3 games.
It sounds right, because, I know no one did anything off the bench the other night in South Bend. I think Puff and DeMarco didn't make a shot. Or maybe, I can't remember. Well, what does that do for all the people that think that Puff should be starting? They got 11 bench points. Well, yeah, you make a great point, and Jalen, the basketball nerd in me will be. I'm highly interested to see what UVA throws at Armando, because these teams have been throwing, everything at Armando. The other night against Notre Dame, the double team was coming almost before he caught the ball. We had a pretty good vantage point from where we were sitting, and if there was a Carolina guy on the wing with the ball, and Armando was posting up on the block, and the guy from the wing is getting ready to make the entry pass, the Notre Dame defender on the weak side, he was coming from the baseline. Before the pass was almost made. So on the catch, he was already doubled. And they did. I know you guys probably have mentioned this. They did find some success in the second half. I asked Hubert about it yesterday, where Pete Nance slid to the high post a little bit, and they were able to get, kind of go Armando up to Nance, maybe back to Armando, to where Pete, with that size, was able, he had 5 assists, season high for Pete Nance, 5 assists on a night when they did not score the ball worth a crap. But, he made some good decisions from that high post, had some nice feeds back down to Armando over the top. It's just as simple as, Hubert Davis basically, 2 or 3 times the last couple of weeks has essentially shrugged without shrugging and just said, it comes down to us making shots. And it's just going to have to be someone. R.J. Davis, God bless him, seems like he hadn't made a shot. I think he's 8 for 46 from 3 over the last 7 games. I had it in the preview today. It's not good.
Not great.
I feel like the finger has taken him off a cliff. But yeah, to Jalen's question, it's, when Armando gets it down there, you noticed against Notre Dame, he was dribbling out of the double team more. He would catch, dribble, and they would kick it back out and sort of try to reset or quickly reverse. And it's just going to come down to, a Leaky Black corner 3, a Pete Nance 3. Some of these guys, Leaky had been dependable, by Leaky standards, until I'm not sure what he did against NC State, but he wasn't good shooting. No one was good shooting the ball the other night. It's kind of remarkable that they had the worst 3-point shooing in school history. And won the game.
In the history of ever. Absolutely.
Yeah, as Tommy has said, this is Carolina basketball.
Yeah. Well, Adam, we appreciate you being a part of the show this morning, man. Hope to talk to you.
Sorry you're not feeling good, Joey.
I'll be okay. I'll get by. You've made me feel better. I've got the elixir known as Adam Smith, and now I will be strictly on a quick rebound and a positive trajectory. So appreciate you being a part of the show.
Flu game.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you very soon. Good luck covering the game tonight, and we will be right back after this break on Inside Carolina Live, 97.9 The Hill, WCHL.
This is Ryan Taylor, and you're listening to Inside Carolina Live.
Mac Orthodontics is in the business of making people smile with confidence. Here's Mark, the happy parent, with more.
When I came in, the first thing I noticed, everybody was really nice. It was just everybody smiled. It was a real smile, and I liked the environment. He had a great personality, and he actually talked to everybody. When you need braces, it prevents you to smile the way you want to. But he's smiling all the time now. Teachers are talking about it. He's always smiling.
Mac Orthodontics in Hillsborough and Burlington. Start loving your smile. Learn more at macortho.com.
Hey, Tar Heel fans, are you game ready? Alumni Hall is your ultimate Tar Heel shopping experience. The best and largest selection of apparel for the whole family. Nike, Nike Golf, Champion, Columbia, plus hats, Yeti, accessories, gifts, and more. UNC students, faculty, and military receive 10% off in-store every day, and you can earn cash back with their Hall Pass rewards. Alumni Hall, located on Franklin Street or anytime at alumnihall.com. Alumni Hall, where Tar Heel fans shop.
Hi, I'm Trevor Holman of Trevor Holman Photography, and I know how putting your best foot forward can help you get ahead. That's why I've dedicated my talents as a visual storyteller to providing quality professional headshots for individuals, businesses, and industry leaders in the Triangle. Learn how your look can put your best foot forward with my column, Best Foot Forward, at the end of each month on chapelboro.com or visit trevorholmanphoto.com to book your session with me today.
Hello, friends. This is Mark Pons. A clean car is a happy car. And at Chapel Hill Tire, we want you driving clean and happy. That's why we now offer expert car wash and detailing services with 4 wash and detail options that all include a hand wash, complete vacuum, wheel cleaning, and tire shine. And we offer free pickup and delivery service for car wash and detail at all 10 of our Triangle locations. Schedule your appointment at chapelhilltire.com. Drive happy and clean, Chapel Hill.
Shared Learning of Chapel Hill invites you to register for biomarkers, determinants of aging that you can control, on how aging changes nutritional needs and how specific exercises can improve strength and vitality. Professor William J. Evans from the Division of Geriatrics at Duke University will discuss important lifestyle changes to reduce the risk of Alzheimer's disease and more. Friday, March 3rd at 11:15 a.m. on Zoom. Register at sharedlearning.us. Thanks to 97.9 The Hill for caring about learning in our community.
The Chapel Hill Media Group is 97.9 The Hill WCHL, your hometown radio station, and chapelboro.com, your hometown online newspaper with local news.
Welcome back to News on the Hill.
Local events.
The Carborough Music Festival is back.
Music for folks who love music. And Tar Heel sports.
Carolina is going to go to the national championship.
Get informed and connected with your community through the Chapel Hill Media Group.
You're listening to Inside Carolina Live with Tommy Ashley and Joey Powell on 97.9 The Hill, WCHL, the flagship station for Tar Heel sports.
Got some mojo working this morning. Tar Heels hoping the mojo works tonight against Virginia. And a guy that's always got his mojo working. Freaking Don Callahan. Don, how you doing, brother?
Good. How you guys doing?
I'm doing all right, man. Can't complain. Well, I'm waiting on Daniel to hit your hot cue.
Well, actually, pretty nice little Saturday. We're gonna go to Home Depot. Yeah, buy some wallpaper, maybe get some flooring, stuff like that. Maybe Bed Bath & Beyond. I don't know. I don't know if we'll have enough time.
There we go. Now I'm good to talk to my man DC. Don, how
man,
you doing,
I
brother?
feel good.
You've had a lot going on. I know since the signing day, the signing period got moved to December, and now normal signing day ain't signing day anymore. I know it's jacked you up, but I do know that you're knees deep in all of it all the time. So I want to talk a little football with you today because spring football is right around the corner. I want to ask you, now the dust has settled on the 23 class, how would you, Don Callahan, rank that class for North Carolina? And you can go scale of 1 to 5, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever. However you want to rank it and talk to us about it.
Are we just talking high school, or are we talking the transfer portal included with all that?
Let's talk about everybody that they're bringing in. So that would include transfer portal. And you can approach it from filling needs, overall talent, all that good stuff.
So I really like what they did with the transfer portal. They, unlike in the prior years, they had specific needs, and all of them were met. They wanted some experienced wide receivers. They got that. They wanted offensive linemen. They got that. They wanted some DBs. They got that. The high school class, though, I mean, I don't think I have to give too much of an opinion on it. You can just kind of look at the facts. It's the lowest ranked class that Matt Brown has signed since he came back to North Carolina. And so that obviously is disappointing. But it's maybe something that won't be as big of a deal for a couple of seasons and maybe can be overcovered based off of what they do in the current class. And then obviously in the immediate future, those transfer portal guys I think are going to provide some much needed help.
So I want to ask you, of that group of guys, including transfer guys, why don't you give me one of the transfers and one of the high school signees you feel like is most likely to make an impact in the fall?
It cannot be Chris Culliver.
Yes, we understand your affinity for that young man. We're going to say it can't be Culliver.
Oh man, for the fall, I probably wouldn't have gone with Chris Culliver. With the transfer portal guys, the guy that I really like is the Hudson kid, the defensive back from East Tennessee State. He was a FCS All-American. His film's great. Jason loves him. So, Jason obviously knows his stuff. So, I'm actually glad Jason liked him so much because when I put on his film, I was kind of blown away and kind of surprised that other schools weren't on that kid. As far as the high school kids, man, you guys are answering about guys who I've kind of erased from my brain and kind of moved on from. I'm actually in Atlanta now preparing for the camp tomorrow. So I'm like, if you want to ask me about Georgia kids for the 24 class, I got you. But I guess you have to look at some of the DBs just because of just the need there, the opportunity there. Yes, they brought in some transfer portal guys, but those guys are, in some cases, going to be just as new to the team as some of these high school kids. I really like the Trey Miller kid, even though he's a little bit on the smaller size, but he's a shutdown guy. Plays really fast. He's a kid from Oklahoma that really hasn't had a whole lot of publicity just because he's kind of out there. He committed and stayed committed and didn't do a whole lot. North Carolina was the only school he really visited. North Carolina was the only school he officially visited. So there wasn't a whole lot of buzz, but he had a great season. In Oklahoma, he's a kid who IMG took him in until he didn't want to play there for whatever reason, and ended up going with his family to Oklahoma. He's originally from Alabama, played at Hoover, which is one of the top programs in the nation. So definitely has a lot of experience. Very polished cornerback. A lot of high school kids aren't super polished at cornerback just because of they're not playing a lot of advanced offenses. But this is a kid who has played a lot of advanced offenses and has been in a lot of situations. So I guess Trey Miller would be the guy that I like to potentially get on the field. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of great candidates, but he would be my choice.
We're talking to Don Callahan, Donnie Scoops, Inside Carolina's and the world's best North Carolina football recruiting analyst. Don, let's talk about John Lilly for a second. And a lot of people sort of fretted when he went on to the Carolina Panthers, to be an assistant under Frank Reich there. I know you follow assistants and their recruiting prowess to an extent. Shed some light on Lilly's loss for this staff. I think from a coaching standpoint, and certainly a position room, the tight ends were fantastic last year, all of them, and they brought something different. But from a recruiting perspective, what does losing a guy like John Lilly mean on that side of the ball, or that side of the equation?
I don't feel like Lilly ever reached his potential at North Carolina or reached the amount of impact that he's had at other places. And a lot of that was because he didn't have territories or even a position that where it was a lot of opportunity for him to kind of show off just what type of recruiter he was. He had Virginia minus Richmond minus the Tidewater area, and that area, I mean, they produced some kids here and there, but not a whole lot. It was recruiting tight ends, which for a while there, and he kind of helped this, and you touch on this a little bit, the tight end position wasn't a position that North Carolina used a whole lot. And so he kind of had to build that up, starting with Bryson Nesbitt. But, I mean, he did an absolutely fabulous job recruiting Nesbitt, who had a bunch of different opportunities. Julian Randolph was another kid who he signed in this past class. Some schools like Miami, UCLA kind of got involved with also, and he did a really good job. But really, it's kind of a lot of what could have been, because he just wasn't in areas where he could make a huge impact. It was funny, a week or so before he departed, I got asked the question just about, I can't remember exactly what the question was, but I kind of mentioned the fact that I would love for him to be in another area so that he can actually make a bigger impact. We're unfortunately not going to see that. So, but I don't think we're going to see this huge drop just because he wasn't afforded the opportunity to make such an impact. If that makes sense. Hopefully I wasn't talking in circles on you guys.
No, I mean, he just didn't have an opportunity to really blossom on the trail. But like I said, the tight end room last year and the way Drake May was able to utilize those guys on the field was that's what I'll be watching as far as whoever replaces him. Let me ask you a quick question before we get out of here. And this is Don Callahan, Inside Carolina recruiting expert. Don, you mentioned it was the lowest recruiting class in Mack Brown's tenure here, part 2. Why? Yes,
other than why as in the rankings say that, but
why has it dipped a bit? Is it purely on the field product?
So I think it's a combination of things. It's like everything else. Everyone wants to pinpoint just one problem, but I think it's a lot of things. One, ever since the 2021 class, which was historically the best class that the state of North Carolina has produced from a talent standpoint, both from the amount of players, quality players, to how highly they were ranked. There's been a huge drop since then. I guess we're kind of getting back to the mean a little bit here. So that has hurt North Carolina the past 2 years. Now, in the 2022 class, that wasn't such a big deal because they were able to compensate by really killing it in Virginia. Well, Virginia was down last year also, so UNC couldn't lean on Virginia to kind of compensate for the drop in the state of North Carolina. So that's one aspect of it. Another aspect of it is, yes, they didn't have a great season prior, and this was the year where they ended in the bowl game where they just got smashed by South Carolina. That was a really bad look. I actually had a couple of recruits who surprisingly kind of told me afterwards that, they saw that game and weren't really thrilled about what had happened in that game. But I think overall, just the expectations from that season really kind of affected things. But I think also some of the different aspects, I know it's no one wants to hear about it now, but I think Jay Bateman was a really good recruiter. If you go back and look at all of the articles on all these defensive players, these 4-stars, 5-stars who ended up signing with North Carolina, Bateman was involved with a lot of those recruitments. Maybe he wasn't the primary recruiter, but he was a very hands-on recruiter, and I think that they missed that, this past recruiting cycle without having him involved. But I think there's a lot of aspects of it, but I think it mostly has to do with the having to go out of state so much more for recruits, and it's just not that easy to do that. And then the other thing, too, is the fact, and this is kind of connected to what I mentioned earlier, Mac was preaching what North Carolina could be. You can do that when you haven't coached any seasons yet. Now that you have some seasons, it's harder to say what North Carolina could be because then kids are looking and saying, well, why haven't they been that yet in the prior couple seasons that you were the head coach of them?
All right, Donnie. Thanks, brother. Appreciate you being a part of the show. Hey, be safe in Atlanta. Get some good scoops for us. Then you can share it with the IC Nation as soon as you get back, as we know that you will. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right, it's Don Callahan. Hit a break. 97.9 The Hill, WCHL.
This is Zach Penalto, and you're listening to Inside Carolina Live.
Michael Berard, Senior Vice President Investments with the Founders Group at Stifel, works with a select group of high net worth individuals and institutions to develop and implement investment plans tailored to their specific objectives and risk tolerances. If you are interested in highly personalized, well-researched guidance and outstanding personal service, you can contact Michael at 984-364-2002. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
We realize how important plumbing appliances are as soon as they stop working. That's why we're lucky to have the Bud Matthews team of plumbing experts just a phone call away, day and night. They can assist you with a simple fix or handle the most complex of problems. From faucets to water heaters, garbage disposals, drains, and toilets, Bud Matthews offers new installation, repair, replacement, and maintenance. To schedule plumbing work or any home service, call 919-929-0203 or visit budmatthews.com.
Paddles is Chatham Park's newest recreational amenity. The private swim and pickleball amenity features a 6-lane competition-style pool and slide, kiddie pool, 8 pickleball courts, including 4 courts with lights, and a concession stand. Memberships are now available to all Chatham Park residents and to the public. View the beautiful facility and learn more about memberships online at paddles@chathampark.com. That's paddles@chathampark.com.
The Tar Heels to the right baseline are here. Floats it way up in the air. It is. Catch the 6-time national champion Tar Heels in action. He got it! 0.3 of a second. All season long. Left side. He's going to go hard, heavy. Contact. Got the basket and the foul. Holy cow. Right here on your home for Carolina basketball.
Countdown to tip-off begins at 90 minutes before game time here on 97.9 The Hill.
Emerge Pediatric Therapy wants to take a minute for moms and dads. At Emerge Pediatric Therapy, their mission is to enhance the lives of the children they serve and the families who love them by providing a fun, nurturing, and supportive therapeutic environment.
When a child is struggling, the typical response is to put extra focus and attention on that area of weakness. At Emerge Pediatric Therapy, we believe in a strengths-based approach that respects a child's neurodiversity. Rather than asking them to do something hard and unmotivating for an arbitrary reward, therapy sessions at Emerge are play-based with activities that are both motivating and meaningful to your child. This approach allows us to celebrate and build upon strengths that your child has in order to improve their weaknesses and overall function.
Take a Minute for Moms and Dads has been made possible by Emerge Pediatric Therapy, creating confident kids through customized therapy with offices in Carborough, Durham, and Cary. Online at emergepediatrictherapy.com.
Hi, it's Jones Angel, voice of the Tar Heels, and you're listening to your flagship station for Tar Heel sports, 97.9 The Hill, WCHL, Chapel Hill.
Coming to you straight from the heart of Chapel Hill in the 97.9 The Hill WCHL studios from the independent voice of UNC sports, covering everything from Amos to Zwicker. This is Inside Carolina Live. And now the hosts of Inside Carolina Live, Tommy Ashley and Joey Powell.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
Inside Carolina Live. Saturday morning, Chapel Hill. Few places I'd rather be than here with Tommy Ashley as we start hour 2 of the show today. Tommy, we have talked Carolina basketball up and down until our faces are blue. We have run out of things to say about the season. You know, you had a great idea because baseball got started recently. Tar Heels dropped their first game to Seton Hall, and then all of a sudden things got better. Funny how that works in baseball. But you said, hey, why don't we talk some baseball today? And you said, why don't we bring on Dave Nathan to talk some baseball? Because the guy has, you know, Carolina baseball's voice. And so why don't we just put him on the microphone, see what happens, and see if he can make us smarter about this season. Dave, how are you, man?
Guys, I'm doing great. Always a thrill to talk a little Carolina baseball here in the month of February. And if the early returns on the first series are any indication, we had better than 8,000 people come take in that Seton Hall series. So there's a lot of folks that are starved to talk Carolina baseball.
It's really fun to see when fans show up, especially, you know, come into the season with the expectations. I mean, when you've got a potential player of the year, Golden Spikes candidate like Vance Honeycutt, and then they've added some guys, you know, I know last season didn't end the way the Diamond Heels fans wanted. But what specifically did Scott Forbes and his staff change to make this roster better coming into this season?
Well, that's a great question, and I'm always hesitant to make these predictions on how things are going to unfold when we get into April and May and June. And I think last year's kind of proof positive about that. A team that was picked to finish fifth in the Coastal Division goes on to win the ACC and comes up a couple of wins shy of Omaha, which was on nobody's radar outside the program about a year or so ago. So what has he changed? What is he doing differently right now? Well, there were some, spots to fill, certainly with pitching, losing Brandon Schaefer, and you elevate Max Carlson to the weekend Friday night guy. And then Will Sandy, from what Coach Gaines and Coach Forbes have told me, he's made as big of a jump as anybody. And it's just such a unique career for Will in that he started some games as a freshman all the way back in 2019. He's the only player that I think anybody can think of that started games in 5 separate years now. And so you think about players like that. Well, if they're good enough to start as freshmen, they're usually not around as juniors or seniors. And nobody had a COVID year up until a couple of years ago. And here's Will still in the weekend rotation. So I think the Tar Heels are expecting some bigger returns from Will this year, even though he's a known commodity. And then Connor Bovair, who was a first-year player last year, transferring over from Siena, was used in a lot of different roles, in and out of the pen, long relief. He's going to be, I think, one of the weekend starters, certainly here at least in the early portion of the season. And then what do you do about your back-end guy with the loss of Davis Palermo? You bring in a guy, Matthew Mateus, who's from Greenville, and there are a bunch of Carolina kids on this roster now. And then maybe Dalton Pence is another player who was injured last year that could fill in that back-end role, which will be really important when you get into ACC play. So those are just a couple of quickies here in terms of what the Tar Heels may be doing differently than they did last year.
We're talking with Dave Nathan about Carolina baseball, and as Dave so eloquently put, it's not even March yet, and we're excited about some Diamond Heels work here on Inside Carolina Live. Dave, one of the newcomers to this roster is Jackson Vanderbrake, and he's already shown that he's got a little bit of pop. What's your early take on him and maybe some of the other new faces?
Well, it's tough not to like what he's done so far. He had that big home run in Game 3 of the Seton Hall series when he finally cracked into the lineup, and then had a 2 RBI single the following matchup against Radford early on to help Carolina win that game. So around the infield with Danny Soretti gone now, and Danny had started every game at shortstop going back to, I think it was April 9th, 2019 against UNC Greensboro. It's been a long time, fellas.
The Van Buren administration, yes.
Yes, not to be confused with the Van Buren boys for all you Seinfeld fans out there.
Well done.
So Colby Wilkerson, as we circle back around to baseball here, Colby Wilkerson wins the shortstop role thanks to his defense. And then you wonder, where's the spot for Vanderbrake after Austin Hawk, a freshman from out of Poptown, started at second base. And Vanderbrake may be at second base with no Johnny Castagnazzi here at the beginning stages of the season. And all he's done is added some pop into Carolina's lineup. And, fellas, there's just so much depth on this year's Carolina roster, not just in terms of arms. We usually think about depth in pitching, but around the infield, there are a number of different ways Carolina can opt to go. And again, this will be kind of a getting to know you process for Coach Forbes and his players to try to figure out who fits where, who matches up best with righties and lefties. But Vanderbrake has made a really good early impression.
Dave, you're right about the depth and the versatility this roster has. I mean, talking to Forbes in preseason and then last week and then after the game against Longwood, I mean, he's got so many pieces to the puzzle that he can put together and shape it however he wants it, depending on who they're playing. The interesting thing that I saw in the roster is I figured Vanderbrake would be the shortstop, right? Because he's got the size and all, and Wilkerson's a little on the short side for a shortstop, but Danny Soretti gave his blessing and said, quite frankly, Wilkerson could have been playing last year over Soretti. Soretti's own words, and so he's got that set. Let's talk about right and left field a little bit, because I know Horvath moved out to right a couple times in the winter or in the fall, and it sort of got people wondering what was happening here. And Horvath's played third base like since he was born. It just shows how good he is as an athlete, and maybe that's a future position. But right and left on either side of Vance Honeycutt, how do you see this shaking out? Because they've sort of worked it a little bit in the early season.
Yeah, they have. You know, they don't ask me what I think we should do, but I mentioned to somebody we should just play with two outfielders since Vance Honeycutt can be all the place all the time and just put somebody else in the infield. But if we're going to stick with traditional baseball here, Casey Cook only played 4 games last year, and he was looked upon as somebody that could have really helped Carolina as a freshman. And so he's back in there in the right field spot this year, and he's produced a little bit with the bat. And I think you keep giving a guy like that chances. So then you go over to left field, and Patrick Alvarez has been kind of that Swiss Army knife, and he's got some experience, and he can certainly fit into that spot at some point in time as well. So there's a lot of different ways that Carolina can go. Reese Holbrook's another player that played some early last year as a freshman. He's got great speed. You want the offense to make a little bit of a jump this year, but he's somebody that Carolina can count on. You've got some other experienced players that have had some cracks there earlier this year. So it goes back to depth and competition, and if you do what you're supposed to be doing before you get to game day, maybe you're in the lineup and Coach Forbes is giving you a shot to try to lock down one of these spots.
Yeah, the midweek games are certainly perfect to get a ton of guys action, not only on the mound but in the field. One guy I do want to ask you about, you've covered him, you've been all over baseball for a good while, but Hunter Stokely. I mean, he's a guy a little bit not necessarily out of shape last year, but a little bigger than you'd like to be. He has transformed his body. He smoked the ball against Longwood a couple times, and he can move to third if they had to when Asuna's fully healthy. But just speak to it sort of speaks to the culture of this program, right, is that you've got a guy that played a ton, but still in the offseason in the fall got his body right, improved so much, and now he's one of the leaders. I mean, he's batting 375 out the gate. Like I said, he had some solid hits against Longwood. Culture, it matters. Forbes preaches it. Stokely embodies it.
Absolutely. I mean, here's a guy that's got Carolina lineage to Chad Flack and grew up in Wilson. And, you know, we could have this discussion a bunch of different ways, but when you're recruiting kids from your own state that have grown up with this program, and it means a lot to be out there and to play a leading role. And that's something that Hunter's got the opportunity to do this year. I was going back and looking through my book at the beginning of last year. He played a little bit, but as the season wore on, it was pretty evident that he was Carolina's surest bet at first base and such a quality hitter. And as you said, for as big as he was last year, you thought he'd have a little more power and pop off the bat, but he was still at least going off average, a really good player for Carolina. So what has he done? He's remade his body in the offseason as a guy that's 40 plus now. Tommy, I've got to start taking some notes on Hunter and ask him what in the world he did to shed that weight, because he looks like a totally different player physically this year, but it hasn't hurt him in the field. Certainly hasn't hurt his speed at all. One of the base hits he had against Longwood, I remarked to Kyle Stroud, was on the broadcast with me, the ball must have come off the bat 105, 106 miles per hour because he smoked it into right field. So you get these veterans coming back, and you have the younger guys take notice of the dedication that it takes to be on this team and to play these roles. And you're right, Hunter Stokely 100% embodies what Coach Forbes and the rest of the staff wants out of this team.
I think I actually saw the metrics on that ball you're talking about. It was like 106 off the bat. From
I wasn't off by much, guys. The eye never lies.
You absolutely nailed that, man. So the obvious thing about North Carolina, we'll talk about in a second, is just the offense. But early on this season, and I know a lot of it's led by Honeycutt, but I've seen this team go 9 of 11 in stolen bases so far this season. Do you feel like it's going to be a very aggressive mindset for Coach Forbes and the staff just to try to move guys around as quickly as they can and then, let the pop come where it may? But do you think that's going to be kind of an undertone for the season?
Yeah, and certainly at the top of the lineup where you got your two fastest guys in Vance and then Mac Horvath. Those guys stole all those bases last year. Vance was a 20-20 guy, and Mac was a 15-15 guy. And I've just been thinking back in a different generation of baseball, you certainly wouldn't have these two guys leading off. Where would they fit in your lineup? But here we are in 2023, and you've got your two fastest, maybe outside of Osuna, two of your three most powerful hitters hitting 1-2. And that, what does that do? It gives you a bunch of ABs. It gives you a ton of opportunities to get on base. It protects Vance with Mac hitting behind him. And already this year, we're seeing how much more patient Vance has to be at the plate because he's a known commodity right now.
Yep.
So he's got to be disciplined enough to just watch these pitches go by. And then I think he took, 3 walks in the second game against Seton Hall, which from my perch almost feels like a double. You get him on, you get him to second base somehow, and then the guys behind him have a chance to have a ton of RBIs this year. And I think to your point, you can be aggressive because you can be aggressive with definitely those two players.
Yeah, Honeycutt's, he's walked 7 times, but when he's stolen 5 bases out of that goes beautifully of an explanation of your point about how often that's going to really feel like a double to have him on and know that he can probably get in scoring position fairly early. So let's stay here and talk about Vance Honeycutt a little bit. I mean, what really are the expectations for this kid, considering how he looked last year and just all of the records and the molds that he broke playing for the Diamond Heels? What are the real expectations for him, and what do you think that the limit is and what he might be able to contribute to this roster?
Yeah, that's a great question. I guess I would caution folks to not expect the same statistical numbers year over year from Vance. He's, again, going to be seeing just the approach to facing him is going to be totally different than it was a year ago. So I don't know if the power numbers are going to be where they were a year ago. He hit all through the lineup last year. In some stretches, he was hitting in the bottom third. In other stretches, he was hitting cleanup. In other stretches, he was hitting maybe first or second in Carolina's lineup because you don't have Angel Zarate or Danny Soretti there anymore. Those spots are open for business. So he's the kind of guy, I think, from a culture standpoint, again, from Salisbury, a North Carolina kid that wants to be here. He's only going to help everybody else. Defensively, he's going to make pitching look better. He's going to make everybody else around him look better because he can cover so much ground. And unfortunately for the opposing hitters, he's going to make them look worse because he's going to steal some base hits and some home runs this year. So defensively, those expectations I don't think change. But the expectation of him being a year smarter, I certainly think the strikeout numbers should come down from where they were last year to what they should be this year. Stolen base numbers might actually go up. On base percentage, I think, has a chance to be a little bit better. RBI numbers, where you're hitting them right now, I don't know how they compare from one year to the next, but I do know this. Whatever the numbers tell us, he's an improved player. He's very coachable. You want your best player to be your hardest working player, and he's right there near the top of the pile. He asks the right questions to the coaching staff. And whatever he's doing this year, he's going to be a help. And, he's got a chance, I think, to be one of the best we've had here in this program. And this program has had a bunch of good ones going back over the course of time.
Indeed, it has. I mean, when you look at Carolina's baseball lineage, that's high praise, but I agree with it 100%. One of the things about Honeycutt that I found that speaks a ton to him personally is he struggled midway last year. Started out hot, had some struggles, and Forbes spoke about it. He fixed it mid-season, and that's tough to do for baseball players who get set in their ways, and then he had another good year. And then this year, I think them having him at the top of the lineup, I think it hurts his RBI numbers, like you mentioned, because it's going to be contingent on guys down at the bottom of the order, but it puts so much pressure on the opponents. And then Horvath's up there. And I asked Horvath after the Longwood game, what's it like having Honeycutt on the bases when you're hitting? And he said, I can just take a pitch and it's a double. He's already there. And then they can't, they can't throw a bunch of breaking balls to Horvath now, I don't think, because if you dirt one, then that's another base. So Forbes and his staff have done a good job and will continue to do a good job. Let me ask you a question. I know about most of the players on the roster, so does Joey, so do many of our listeners, but sort of tell the people that haven't gotten into Carolina baseball thus far this year, give me a name or two of guys that folks that are watching in May, when it starts getting hot and all that, April and May, that a name that they'll likely hear. I'll give you mine, Jake Knapp. Who you got?
Yeah, Jake Knapp's one of those arms that came in the transfer portal, and Walter State transfer, if I'm not mistaken, where the Tar Heels have gone to time and again to get players year over year. So I think that's a good one. I think Kevin Acey's another one, transfer from Penn, super smart kid, Ivy League pitcher of the year last year. Just you wonder what the spot when we get to May and hopefully June is going to be for some of these pitchers. But Coach Forbes is going to give them opportunities, and that says nothing of the guys that we saw like Padgett the other day that I thought was one of the real stars of the Seton Hall series, and Kyle Percival that was so good in the starting role against Radford. I mean, Tommy, you asked for one guy. I'm going off on tangents all over the place because there's just names popping into my head that we haven't heard a lot of before. But just by the nature of that position on top of the mound, if you want to go deep, you've got to have more than just a couple of guys.
One of the things I think is fun to look at with this schedule this year, Dave, is there's a lot of really cool rivalries between interstate squads, specifically when you look at who Carolina has coming into the Bosch this year. The NC State plays there. I think Duke plays at the Bosch. You've got I think they've got a home and away against Coastal. You're playing South Carolina again. Campbell, basically anybody who's close by, if you want to see them, you'll have a chance to see them play against the Diamond Heels this year. Who does Carolina need to be aware of maybe outside of the conference? East Carolina this weekend. Who's Carolina need to be aware of outside of the conference that has a chance to be a national power that could really earn them some of those good RPI points early in the season?
Yeah, that's another good question. And early on, you just have no idea how the breaks are going to go for a lot of these teams. But certainly East Carolina right out of the gate, going there for your first road game, that's going to feel like a postseason game before we flip the calendar to March. That you are going right into Hornets' nest when you go into Greenville. And they've been one of the most consistently excellent programs, not just in their conference or in our state, but throughout the country since Coach Godwin has been there. So you have to have East Carolina on your radar. Going to Coastal later on in the year, I think we go to Coastal right before Clemson, which is the end series of the season this year.
That's correct.
And Coastal, listen, they won a College World Series. They've got a tradition of excellence within their program, and at that stage of the season, I don't know if it's going to matter big time RPI wise that they're playing Carolina so late to have a chance to get into the field, but that will be like an NCAA tournament game and maybe a super regional type game depending on how both of these seasons go. So those are a couple. And, Coach Woodard at Charlotte has done such a good job. We've got them on the schedule this year, and I got a sneaking suspicion the 49ers are going to be doing some big things here with how I know Coach Woodard and how the program has been in the past. That's another one I would not overlook.
Well, there will certainly be plenty of times for the Tar Heels, hopefully, to not overlook people this season. But and hopefully we can, if Dave will come back and talk to us, hopefully we'll talk to him a little bit more this year about how the Diamond Heels are playing out and who's developing, who's not, what's going on with the rest of the season. But Dave, appreciate it, man. Thanks for making time for us. We hope to talk to you sometime very soon, but thanks for joining us here on a Saturday morning for Inside Carolina Live.
Guys, my pleasure. And I can tell you this, my schedule only gets easier once basketball comes to a conclusion, whatever that might be. So you're catching me right now during a really busy crossover time, but really happy to share some time and talk about the Diamond Heels.
And he's a gem making time for us as we talk about the Diamond. See what I did there, Jim Diamond? I got to get out of here. Dave, thanks for joining us on a Saturday morning on Inside Carolina Live. This is 97.9 The Hill, WCHL.
This is Anthony Elsie, and you're listening to Inside Carolina Live. Go ahead.
Hello, friends. This is Mark Pons. A clean car is a happy car. And at Chapel Hill Tire, we want you driving clean and happy. That's why we now offer expert car wash and detailing services with 4 wash and detail options that all include a hand wash, complete vacuum, wheel cleaning, and tire shine. And we offer free pickup and delivery service for car wash and detail at all 10 of our Triangle locations. Schedule your appointment at chapelhilltire.com. Drive happy and clean, Chapel Hill.
If you're more than someone who just checks the scores, I want to introduce you to the place for Tar Heel sports discussion, analysis, and breaking news. Inside Carolina has been the center of the Tar Heel sporting universe for over 20 years, with a team of the best UNC sports reporters around, unrivaled insight, and a vast message board community for round-the-clock discussion with other Tar Heel fans. Your game day begins and ends with InsideCarolina.com.
This is Hubert Davis, head coach of the Tar Heels. We are excited to see you at the Smith Center again this season, so don't forget to make reservations for you, your family, and friends at the new Sheraton, Chapel Hill, where so many Tar Heel alumni and fans stay for home games and other special visits. The new Sheraton has been completely renovated with all the amenities you need to fully enjoy your time here. Go to SheratonChapelHill.com for our home games and your other reasons to be in Chapel Hill. Thank you, and go Heels.
Hendrick Subaru South Point is happy to announce that new Subarus have arrived. Are you ready for a test drive? Come see us and find 3.9% APR on select 2023 models now through the end of the month. And we're growing our used car inventory, so Hendrick Subaru South Point is offering top dollar for trade-ins. Skip the guesswork, and we'll give you your trade-in value in 10 seconds. Hendrick Subaru South Point, 984-287-5600.
98% of us perform at NASA's creative genius level at age 5, only 2% when we're in our 20s. I'm Carl Nordgren, entrepreneur, novelist, and lifelong student of growing creative qualities, promising your natural creative qualities don't go away. They're eager to be reborn. It's simple, and we have fun talking about how in Exploring Your Creative Genius, the weekly show available on chapelboro.com and airing on 97.9 The Hill, 11:30 Sunday mornings. Please join us.
Rocky Balboa. Listen, people always try to tell me about some great investment that everybody needs to put their money in. But I stopped thinking the way other people think a long time ago. You got to think like you think. Talk to John Stillman at Rosewood Wealth Management and get the investments that work for you, not the ones that work for some other guy.
Rocky Balboa is not a real person and was not compensated for this endorsement. However, Carolina Wealth Stewards, doing business as Rosewood Wealth Management, is a real registered investment advisor in the state of North Carolina.
You're listening to Inside Carolina Live with Tommy Ashley and Joey Powell on 97.9 The Hill, WCHL, the flagship station for Tar Heel sports.
Well, woman I love is the name Ramona. She kind of looks like
Snake Farm.
Storm.
You know about that,
She
Tommy?
dance like a little Egypt.
Ray Wiley
Works down
I
at
know him, but I don't know if I've heard that one.
Snake Farm. It just
I
sounds
like Redneck Mother.
Snake Farm.
It's relevant. Probably is. Snake Farm.
It's a reptile.
It's a reptile house. That's actually a pretty good chill song. That's one of those where if you've got some brown liquor or you've got your beer of choice and you're sitting out on the back porch, fire that one up. It'll give you a good chuckle. Tommy, appreciate Dave Nathan being a part of the show. It's the first time we've done some baseball-focused stuff here, and I think that might become part of the regular rotation. One, because Dave is a pro at what he does, but two, when the Tar Heel baseball team is playing well and the program is doing well, it's actually fun to talk about.
Yeah, and obviously last night struggled with the hornet's nest of East Carolina. Wasted a fantastic start by Max Carlson. But I think a couple things that happened in that game speaks to A, how good Carlson is, but B, East Carolina's a good baseball team.
There's nothing shameful about losing that game on the road against that team.
Yeah, how they lost is, it can't really happen. But, I mean, it's, what was it yesterday, February 24th? And you got to figure out who can pitch. I said it on the message board. You got to figure out who can pitch in pressure situations. And it's sort of like playing the bench early in a basketball season. You better figure out who
That's
can
a sore
do
subject
it.
now, bro.
Yeah, hey, it's relevant. You better figure out who can perform when the lights are on. And, you give guys opportunities early and then it pays off late. And Carolina just couldn't get it done. But East Carolina, like I said, they've got some players, and they, it was it was not good to lose East Carolina just for the nature of that beast. But it's a learning experience for Pence and those guys. So we'll see what happens on Sunday when they come back here. Rightly or wrongly, they canceled today's game. I mean, it's cold and it might be rainy down in Greenville. So they come up here. It'll be a good environment. It's a challenge for Carolina's baseball fan base to recreate what East Carolina had last night. Because once that crowd started rocking in the 8th inning,
it got out here quick.
Yeah,
got sideways real quick. All right, this segment, IC Takeover, brought to you by our friends at Johnny T-Shirt. We appreciate all of the support that they give to not only this show, but all the content that IC puts out. And if you haven't been to Johnny T-Shirt lately, make sure you check them out. They're just good human beings that run that operation. They've got good gear. We just got done talking to Dave Nathan, and we're talking about baseball. Swing by and get you your baseball caps. Tommy, I don't know if you know this. I'm a fitted hat guy. You heard this about me?
Yeah, and it's fascinating that you can find fitted hats for your big head.
That's also true. Well, that actually works in my favor because sometimes you can find some rare ones because
nobody else needs them.
I get it. The size of my giant dome.
And my head's the same size. It's just a little shape, a little different. But that's a great point, though, because when I go shoe shopping, I'm a size 13. Back in the day, you could never find a 13 because they had 13. One pair.
Yep.
And so big heads get good hats.
I do all right on the online shopping because my dome piece finds a couple of pieces that you normally can't see anywhere. All right. So thanks to Johnny T-Shirt. Check them out. East Franklin Street in Chapel Hill. If you're heading up to the Bosch or for lacrosse season or for any kind of game that you're coming to watch, even if you're in town for the UVA game tonight, swing by Johnny T-Shirt. Tell them Joey and Tommy sent you. You'll be glad you did. Use that extra 10% off that premium subscribers get, and you'll really be thankful. All right, man. Jalen, this is your time to shine, brother.
Yes, sir.
Give me some questions. Tommy and I will see what we can do to not embarrass ourselves.
Okay, so I'm looking at the live chat, and this one, I was just writing this one down. This one stood out to me. They were pretty much asking, in the case that Armando is double teamed or wherever it may be, should Carolina attempt to have Leaky kind of play a bigger role and post up in the paint? I argue against that, mainly because we have another big in Pete Nance, and I want him to work at this point to just solidify being good at one thing in particular. Like, he is decent at a lot of things. He can shoot sometimes. He can do a little fadeaway in the paint sometimes, but there's no one thing in particular that he is really good at. So in the case that we do see this happen, I'd rather keep Leaky playing the role he does, like we mentioned earlier, have him being more aggressive slashing. But in that case, it's time for Pete Nance to kind of use his size to his ability.
Yeah, I mean, Pete Nance has got to play with some confidence. The one thing that he has done fairly consistently well is post up and get his little back down, shoot a little jump hook. Now, he struggled at that at times, and a lot of times he's unsure. But what you don't want to do against Virginia is they're going to double Baycott. You don't want to just add more layers to the defense down there because it's already going to be packed in. The way they deal with Baycott double teams is hit some shots.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And, Leaky needs to – one thing that has gotten me watching this team, and maybe I don't watch it close enough, but even when we used to play back in the day, if you posted up, you knew that somebody was on that wing, the opposite wing, and you didn't even have to look. You could throw it there. Carolina doesn't do that. Carolina's outlet is the corner three for the most part. So, I mean, Baycott's going to get doubled. The way you beat the double team is you get him the ball where he needs it quickly and on time. Otherwise, you're going to deal with a double, and you got to kick it, and somebody's got to make shots. But I don't think you post Leaky. Leaky hadn't been a post guy his entire career. You don't start it tonight. And if he has a size advantage over somebody, you would hope that he could take advantage of it, either slashing or backing them down. I just don't think it's going to be the back down route.
Where Leaky's value is cutting, bisecting the lane. When he can slash from the wing across the lane, there's usually hardly anybody that can stop him. He's athletic enough to get up above wherever the defense is. And usually he can make that, a little 6-foot runner, a little 6-foot contested jumper, or he's going to get fouled. That's never a bad thing. And I get frustrated a little bit watching because that's usually there for him. Because, again, when you think about the guys that he's guarding, he's usually got more athleticism than those guys do, and he can actually take them off the dribble. So use that little bisecting angle, get in there and get you a shot. And again, as we've talked about with North Carolina, they've got bigs that can rebound. So if you get it up on the rim, even if you don't get fouled, it's usually going to end well for the Tar Heels.
Yeah.
So give that a try. We were talking about Baycott earlier. What was specifically the question he asked about Baycott's? Because I got a stat for you, Jalen.
He was asking in the case that he's double teamed and kind of not playing in the way that he normally can. Is Leaky going to be the main one to post up?
I think the thing you can do against, it's not like playing against a Syracuse zone, but against this pack line for UVA, if Pete can do like he did a little bit against Notre Dame, where he's got the ability to throw that, to trigger that post feed because he's so much taller, and they are indeed, if for some reason they decide to front or collapse down on Armando, then if he can hit that 10-footer, then all of a sudden I think he's more valuable than Leaky is. But I do think, the combination of those two guys, if they just get a couple of buckets, and we're not asking the guys to be 20, 25-point players, we're asking them to just get a couple of buckets right there to keep that defense honest, I think that's probably a safe solution.
Yeah.
Somebody, Slagle said Leaky in the corner doesn't help this offense. If he's making shots, he does.
I mean, for a long time, he was the best percentage shooter on the team.
Yeah. And you look, what was the first shot in the national championship in Duke Final Four game?
Insane.
Corner three by Leaky, and he's done it. I mean, that you have to make shots.
Yeah.
Because if you're not making shots, it doesn't matter what you do, to quote The Rock. It doesn't matter whether
It doesn't matter.
So, a lot of people are talking about Nance at the high post. You know what I would love to have seen this year? Jalen Washington in the high post.
Yeah.
Man, it's like.
He's got that shot in his bag.
It's so nice.
He could fake the pass and just shoot a little, free throw jump shot or free throw set shot from as high up as he does. Man, that would have killed it. And then if they collapse on him, he drops it to Baycott. But
Tommy, I'll talk about your boy, DJ Burns, for a little bit. You know why DJ Burns is so good?
Because he's good at
touch.
Oh,
touch. Jalen Washington has that. If you watch Jalen's jump shot, he's got that soft touch when he releases it, and he's also built that way. I absolutely agree with you. Get Jalen Washington some in the high post too, because in the event that he hasn't learned to throw that post entry to Armando, he can hit that shot.
Yeah, and you know what I like about guys that aren't overly athletic in high school? They learn how to use their body.
They learn other things.
Yep. And you get the old man at the Y perspective, and that's what Burns has. That's what Baycott really hasn't been able to do. Granted, it's tough against double teams, and that's what Pete Nance has not really done as much as he needs to be. But against Virginia, look, I can answer all the questions the same. Make shots. Because if you don't make shots, if I'm Virginia, I'm not even defending outside the three-point line. Why would I? If you're not going to shoot and make shots?
Keep them on self-check.
Yeah, that kind of brings us to the next point with the other question I saw with Jalen Washington's gameplay in Virginia the first time. Does he play more than 10 minutes in this game?
I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
Should he? Yeah.
Yes.
He played well. He got worn out against Virginia the first time and tired out. But those first, whatever he played in the first half, what did he play in the first half? 15?
Yeah, 13 or 15 minutes. Yeah.
He was one of the best players on the court. And, Virginia's gone small, so defending them is going to be an issue. But, if they don't – I'm not going to waste my money betting on what the rotation will be.
Yeah.
You never know.
Well, and I've said before on this show, and I think I've said on the Coast to Coast a little bit with Sherrod McMillan and Sean Moran, this guy's opinion is that Jalen Washington needs to play 20 minutes a game. At this point in the season, in February, when you're talking about a guy that's going to be getting a lot of minutes next year, the dude needs to be getting reps right now. He needs to get 20 minutes a game. And if he gets tired, so be it. But as long as his body allows you, that guy needs to be getting minutes. I can't see another reason why you would not keep him out. But to Tommy's point, is it going to happen? I wouldn't bet a vital organ on it.
Yeah, I mean, when did he play his most minutes?
Against UVA.
When they had no other option. We'll see what happens. I'd put him out there. I agree with you. We're going to be talking about this next year.
Yes.
And going he's got to develop. Well, he should have been developing. But anyway.
I mean, he could have been developing, again, once he got to the point where he was physically able and physically cleared, they should have been easing him in. And I know I sound like I'm Monday morning quarterbacking here, and I know I've got the gift of hindsight, yada, yada, yada. But I don't know another way that you can look at what he's done in his minutes this year and argue with that.
This discussion is like the Starbucks drive-through for somebody addicted to that stuff. It doesn't matter what you do. we always end up talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
This whole year.
Yep.
It's like a friend of mine. It doesn't matter what they have at home. They might have it. They're going to end up in the Starbucks line. And we discuss this every week, and we've been doing it for the past month. Game more.
All right, give me one more, Jalen.
I think this is a good one to end it with. The Orange Shovel said, "Does tonight's win change the narrative of this team?"
No.
I love how we were so quick on the draw.
I mean, Virginia just got smacked by Boston College. Tonight's win is important. The narrative changes if they string three together.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
that's it.
It's about ending consistently at this point. I agree with you. I don't think it changed the narratives at all. The narrative is set in stone at this point. So really, if they want to solidify a spot in the tournament, is really just on the team playing together, doing the things that they talk about every other time they lose a game, and every time Coach Davis comes out and says, yeah, they need to play more aggressive. It's time to put action to all of these words. So, what, 3 games left?
Regular season. Somebody asked in the chat earlier, and I'm going to throw this out too. Somebody asked in the chat, is this still a Q1 for North Carolina if Carolina finds a way to win it? First off, win the game first. But also, like, it's absurd if you think about it, because earlier in the year when North Carolina beat NC State, it was a Q1 win, but North Carolina beat them too bad, and it made it a Q2. And then you worry about, like, tonight, if they beat UVA, does UVA fall enough to where if they lose another game, it becomes like it's hard to wrap your head around that. And I don't know why, if we're talking about a system in the net that is so volatile and doesn't, and fluctuates from week to week and game to game, that's hard to figure out. But they just win the game.
Yeah, it's like Baycott said. Adam mentioned what Baycott said when he asked about BC and Virginia. BC won. Well, that's not good for us. Talking about us being Carolina and Baycott talking about that. Look, the bottom line is you got to win all 3. And then you worry about it. If Carolina
let everything else fall, yeah.
What are they, 17-11 right now? If they get to 20-11 going into the ACC tournament, somehow be 21-12, they're in. I think they'll get in. The NCAA would love to have them in Dayton.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the going thing for them. But it doesn't matter if you don't win them. I don't care whether it's a Q1 or a Q8.
I'm going to go back to what UNC is great in Q8 games, by the way, Tommy. I'm going to go back to something Sherelle and I talked about last year after the Michigan game, after the Pittsburgh game. Even if North Carolina gets in at this point, like, what has indicated to you that they can string it together? If you take last year's 6 games out of the equation, what with this roster has indicated to you that they can do anything with it, even if they get in?
It doesn't matter. Just get there and find out.
Let's roll it out. All right. We will we'll pick a winner during the break and announce it during the last segment of who wins the Johnny T-shirt goodness. Appreciate you guys submitting your questions. And shout out to all the folks who've been listening online today and watching this in the YouTube chat. It's always fun to have different ways to interact with folks during the show. We'll take our last break of the day. We'll be right back, and we'll put a bow on the show, talk a little bit about tonight's game against UVA, Monday night against Florida State, and then a break before Senior Day against Duke next Saturday. Listen to Inside Carolina Live. He's Tommy Ashley. Intern Jalen is here. Daniel Merrick, I think, is still on the boards. I don't know. He hasn't said much today, so I'm assuming he's still here. We'll be right back to our last segment of the day on Inside Carolina Live. You're listening to 97.9 The Hill, WCHL.
Yo, this is Denora Cersei, Carolina alum, and you're listening to Inside Carolina Live. Let's go, baby.
At Olmaz Jewelers in Eastgate Crossing, they make customers for life. Here are a few words from Skylar, a longtime customer.
When my now husband and I were starting the ring shopping process, we have been together for almost 9 years, so I was very involved with the ring. The whole process can be nerve-wracking, but I love Olmaz because it just feels like home. They're so accepting and welcoming and patient. They just really make you feel comfortable.
Olmaz Jewelers in Eastgate Shopping Center. The name means diamonds. Let's engage. Online at olmazjewelers.com.
Hello, I'm Holly Fricaro, CEO of the Home Builders Association of Durham, Orange, and Chatham counties. This is the Home Builders Minute, where I interview one of our members every month about their expertise in the current housing market.
This month, my guest is Nora Spencer, CEO and founder of Hope Renovations. I'm so excited to bring this interview to our listening public. Tell us a little bit about why you call each different class a cohort.
It's the model that makes the most sense for us because every group that comes in, it's not just a class of people that get these skills and get this training. It is a group of women and non-binary folks who really work together very closely over the entire training program and become each other's champions, each other's cheerleaders. They're each integral to the other's success. And so that cohort model and calling it a cohort really makes a lot of sense for what we're doing. Honestly, it just came to me. I think just when we were putting all this together and thinking about what to call them, it just made sense. When they join us, it's a cohort. And then when they graduate, they become graduates. Hope grads.
Thanks for joining us on the Home Builders Minute, keeping us informed about the building and buying of new homes. Tune in weekly for this show, which is also archived under the Town Square tab of chapelboro.com and on hbadoc.com.
What's up, Tar Heels? It's Armando.
Blicky Black.
And RJ Davis.
After we put work in on the court and in the gym,
there are no better places around than Oya Cantina,
Town Hall Grill, and Town Hall Burger and Beer.
From a wide variety of Latin American dishes to quality burgers, sandwiches, and salads made to order.
Plus lockdown chicken tenders.
The Mondo Burger.
And my famous Cajun shrimp burrito. They have everything you need.
And who knows?
You might even see us there.
Let's go.
The Casual Pint is your place for craft beer. Choose among 35 rotating taps. With a wide variety of styles, there's something for everyone. What's your favorite style? Don't quite know? Sample before you select your pint or try a flight today. Wanting to take beer to go? Choose from 200 plus beers in their cooler to create your mix of six or fill a crowler or growler from the tap wall. All at the Casual Pint, 201 South Elliott Road, Chapel Hill.
You're listening to Inside Carolina Live with Tommy Ashley and Joey Powell on 97.9 The Hill, WCHL, the flagship station for Tar Heel sports.
All right, Tommy, it's your favorite part of the show. When I tell you the name of that artist, you know who that is? Nah. Warren Zevon, yes, sir.
Where lives in London.
Yep, the same guy. He has a very underappreciated catalog. This song is called "Lawyers, Guns, and Money." He actually made an album after he'd been diagnosed with cancer, but before he died. That was really, really good. And there was a song in there called I'm flaking on the name of it. "Keep Me in Your Heart for a While." And it's just really, really moving song. But Warren Zevon's catalog, if you're listening to us out there and have not tapped into some Zevon, he's a really, really good listen. And shout out to AJ for dropping some Lawyers, Guns, and Money. I think it's what the Tar Heels need tonight, some Lawyers, Guns, and Money to get a win against Virginia at home and keep their tournament hopes alive.
Can't talk about guns, even though it doesn't matter in some places.
Fair enough. Winner is Jamie Yount or Yunt, depending on which part of North Carolina you're from. He gets our $50 Johnny T-shirt gift card. So, Jamie, if you would please get in touch with me, Joey at InsideCarolina.com. Send me your contact info. We'll make sure we get that Johnny T-shirt gift card out to you. And you can be styling next time you get your gear from Johnny T. Tommy, tonight's game, again, I'm going to give this out. I think I mentioned it earlier, but you got Tar Heels are now, the line is up to 3. Tar Heels favored by 3. Total sitting at 132. Far be it from me to buck Vegas, because Vegas doesn't exist without figuring something out. How in the world do they have the Tar Heels favored against UVA? I mean, I understand that UVA is coming off just a total warm pile of a performance against Boston College the other night. I get that. And UVA has not been good down the stretch here. I get that. But what instills confidence to where you think the Tar Heels are a 3-point favorite? And I know lines are set to get people to bet. I understand the logic behind that. But 3 points, the Tar Heels laying 3 tonight? How you feel?
Vegas wants your money.
Yes. I don't have a lot, but
and they know how to get it. And so every Carolina fan in the world is taking Virginia in the money. It's Virginia in the points, and every Virginia fan is saying that's easy money. And so people, I don't know. I don't care. The bottom line is this, though. Boston College game, Carolina season. That's why Carolina's favored. Carolina's played decently well at home. And if you bet on these games, and you bet on college basketball specifically, I have a GoFundMe page I will set up for you to donate it for a good cause rather than doing that. It just makes no sense, Joey.
How many Blackberry Smoke tickets can you buy for Tommy Ashley? That would be that setup giveaway for Tommy on GoFundMe.
Yeah, $25 a pop. Just send it to me. I'll make sure it goes to a good use.
And you can guarantee odds there too. You can guarantee that Tommy will use the money.
I will send you a picture. I'll autograph it for you.
I don't know why you want to go devalue stuff like that, but this game tonight, and also I'm gonna go ahead and warn you if you're listening to the show. Corey Alexander is on the color tonight, and I can guarantee you he's going to talk about how he's friends with everybody in the college basketball world, but he's also going to have probably a big 2/3 split screen with Joe Lunardi's giant head. So deal with that accordingly. Don't say you weren't warned. Tommy, let's go with, of course, North Carolina makes shots tonight. Can they keep Virginia from doing what they want to do? Because as we've seen this year, some of the issues that Carolina's had, specifically down the stretch against Notre Dame, is their inability to stop the ball. Can they keep Virginia from getting what they want? If you remember the last time Carolina had this game was relatively close, and I think they just had a total breakdown. Caleb Love may have missed somebody, and then Virginia ended up getting a dunk, which essentially put it to 3 possessions with a few seconds left. But how can they keep Virginia from doing what the Cavaliers want to do tonight?
If I'm Hubert Davis and the rest of the staff, I'm challenging these guys on that. Do not let your man beat you. Don't be the one that allows your man to have a great night and helps the opponent beat us, right? RJ Davis, he can play defense. He can get in the way. I think that the Syracuse game may have gotten him a little hesitant to take those shots again and draw those charges.
Up in that game.
I mean, he got Mike Tyson on the last one, and so I understand that. But at this point in the season, you challenge everybody defensively. I don't care if you score 1 point. Your man cannot score. And too many times we've seen with this team is that they simply allow their guy to do whatever. And teams ISO. I would think, your opinion here, Jalen, I would think if I'm a basketball player and another coach ISOs me on defense, that's an insult, man. And I'm going to take it personal, right? And I'm going to take it personal, and either you're going to have to bully me to get to the rim or you're going to shoot foul shots. But you're not going to just...
You're going to feel it if you get it.
You're going to, and that's what we haven't seen at times on defense, is that it's like they want to play defense for a second, and then once they realize, then it's like, okay, have it. No, you're shooting foul shots, and we'll see if RJ Davis can accomplish that. Kihei Clark, people talk a lot of trash about him. He's like 27.
He's effective. Yeah. My man's effective.
And when he wasn't effective last year in the Smith Center, Leakey just destroyed him. I think both games last year. But, they've got other guys that can score. So if you're challenged, if you're a player and you get challenged, what are you saying when Virginia's trying to ISO you?
Well, first off, I feel like Carolina has the ability to play pretty good defense. From what I've seen, at least in some of the home games that I've been to, it's just keeping that consistency and not getting winded. Because once they are winded and that consistency drops, is very obvious. Like you said, Tommy, like I would be insulted if somebody's just trying to ISO me the whole game. This team has the capability to play really good defense, but it's all on players trusting that process and really locking in, not letting mismatches switch them up. And I like especially that Armando can kind of play defense on the perimeter a little bit too if they're going small ball. So it's really keeping the consistency with that. And even if they're not playing that well offensively, like you said, even if you're scoring 1 point, you need to be doing everything you can on defense to ensure that if we're not scoring, then they're not going to be scoring too, at least. Sort of like what we kind of saw in that first half of the Notre Dame game.
Just brutal basketball, but somebody made and I'm going to give them a shout out because this is a great point. EDG 22 star. Shout out for this comment. Virginia is a bad team to get right on.
Yeah.
They can play ugly and win. Can Carolina play ugly and win against Virginia? I think it is a straight up challenge to the players individually and as a team. Shots are not going to fall. I get it. But if this team's not fully engaged defensively, then they're going to have a problem. And that's what I'm looking at tonight. Yeah. And that tells me a couple things. One, and I said it earlier in the show, one, do the players, are they fully invested and are they in? And do they want to be the team that went from number one to out? Or has Hubert Davis got a firm enough grasp on this roster that he can get them all to just go to work? Win a game 47-45. I mean, Carolina won ACC championship years ago against Virginia by that score or something similar. So win a game like that. But defensive end is what I'm watching, because if Virginia gets free run and free layups and all that stuff, there's going to be some heart attacks had watching this bunch. and then you just mail it in and say, well, we're free March. We're free the last half of March to go do whatever we need to do. Maybe watch some baseball at Boschheimer Stadium or something. What do you think, Joey? What's the key to the game for you?
I mean, again, it sounds simple, but I really think it is. Just make shots. I mean, with North Carolina can make a decent amount of shots. They're not going to be a good shooting team. That's not going to change this late in the season. But hit the shots that you get, because as we've talked about before, everything is predicated, especially with getting Armando going against a defense like this where UVA likes to muck it up. If you can't force the defense to be honest, then they're going to collapse on Armando, and then everything is difficult. Everything will be difficult from that point on. I think it's just make shots. You don't have to shoot over 50% for the game. It'd be nice. But if you just go out and make a couple, turn them over, North Carolina's got to take care of the ball too. North Carolina has, I think they had, first off, they had 0 assists in the first half the other night, which when you only have a handful of field goals, that's hard to do. So share the basketball, but create some turnovers. I think that would help you. And you saw when North Carolina was able to get some transition buckets against Notre Dame, and when they've had transition against other teams, that helps because it keeps your offense from being so difficult. So get you a couple of turnovers. If you can create transition off of those, then awesome. But I do think it's just as simple as making your open shots. Make open shots. Find your happy place mentally. Go wherever it is you got to go, but you're in your home gym. You got 2 more chances, including tonight, to win a ball game in your home gym. Just make shots.
Be invested. Be invested fully on both ends of the floor, but especially on the defensive end. There's no excuse if that doesn't happen. None. And I don't want to hear them make them. I don't want to see people biting their lip saying we should have done this, should have done that, and there's still a chance and all that. No, it's tonight.
Question for you both: if we are seeing this shooting struggles from Caleb and RJ or whoever in the starting lineup, is now the time for Coach Davis to begin to really start utilizing those pieces on the bench, or do you feel like it's a little too late because of the lack of development there really has been throughout the season?
There's 28 games under the belt in this year. Why would you change now? You know what I mean? Yeah. And if you change now and it goes suddenly right, that's just going to create a madhouse of second guessing and all that stuff. I don't know. I just think we see more of the same.
I don't think there's any chance you're seeing it tonight. I mean, there's been so many chances earlier this year to have these guys worked in, and I don't think that you're going to see it this late. Appreciate you guys being a part of the show. I'm thanking people again because I'm a nice guy and I like you guys doing this show with me and helping make it what it is. Special thanks to Adam Smith for making time on his Saturday. Same with Don Callahan and to Dave Nathan, baseball voice. Love to have a baseball play-by-play guy on here. We'll try to do that a little bit more. But until next time, thanks for being a part of Inside Carolina Live on 97.9 The Hill. We'll talk to you next week.
I'm Shimon Williams, and you're listening to Inside Carolina Live.